One point where I disagreed was with regards to welfare. I completely agreed that welfare shouldn't be used as a carrot or a stick, where in order to receive welfare, people should be pressured into obtaining abortions or birth control. Yet while I thought people who are poor or going through a hard time in life should receive assistance, I didn't view welfare as being right. A person shouldn't be dependent on welfare for their survival. If you're struggling with one or two children, adding more kids to that situation might be your right, but taking care of those kids is your responsibility. You're an individual and you have rights and control over yourself, but you can't push to make decisions for yourself and then turn around and expect to abdicate responsibility for the consequences of those decisions. It's perfectly fine to agree to provide assistance up to a point, but then be objective with where you choose to draw the line. But part of the issue as well is, can a person with low income reasonably obtain reliable access to health care? How easy and affordable is it to get resources related to family planning? Can they get regular checkups for themselves or their children? The reality is that most people in American society, through tax cuts, incentives, rebates, etc., also receive some form of assistance from the government. When you look at things from that perspective, attempting to cut welfare for poor people who arguably need it the most is incredibly unfair. That's like penalizing them for being poor. Different groups, whether that's the working, lower to middle class, wealthy people, companies, and corporations receive tax incentives from the government. It's all assistance or subsidies. Having it explained that way changed my perspective, and with that I had to check myself. Depending on your income, assets, and liabilities, you might get some kind of credit or incentive from the government. But because of the people we assume receive what we deem as welfare, we pick and choose when it's acceptable. The average person checks some boxes on their tax return and gets money. Whereas for the poor who are in need of welfare, they have to jump through all types of hoops. We as the public put pressure and expectations on them with regards to how they should live their lives if they hope to continue receiving this government benefit. Much of Killing the Black Body is directly about reproductive rights, but a decent portion, I would estimate like 50%, is dedicated to discussing welfare. Robert spends a good amount of time laying the groundwork for her points. I initially found myself disagreeing with her because what she was saying didn't sound right, until she moved past the basic explanation of things and really got into how a lot of people, myself included, that the way we view welfare is flawed. It took a while to get there, but when she did, her ideas made a lot of sense, and I came to agree with much of what she was explaining. I've never thought or believed that people on welfare were purposely having a bunch of kids for money, because it's really not that much money. Something new that I learned was that people can and do work while receiving welfare. Actually, the vast majority of welfare recipients are working, but the income that they earn is not enough to support themselves and their families. It's a way of providing a baseline, or at least some kind of a foundation, under the poor. Killing the Black Body also helps to break down the fact that in a lot of cases, some of these initiatives are aimed at curtailing people having children outside of marriage. I don't think it's a bad idea for people to be married before having kids, but as Roberts breaks down, the way that these programs actually work is that they kind of force women to be dependent on the salary of a man. Early in the women's movement, women were